What's up everyone, my name is PlatinumHowler, coach of your Coquitlam Red Gyarados, and today I am bringing you my Week 3 match of the PCL D-League versus OddsAre and his Memphis Bewears. You can see his team over on the right side of the screen, and his two Z users are Kieran Black and Audino. Now, Odds is a replacement coach for Obo, who we faced in the IBL D-League as well. Originally, this was going to be against the Seattle Sandstorms, and now Odds has taken over the team and is running it under the Memphis Bewears. Odds has played both of the first 2 weeks, so Obo never actually played a match in this league, but this is the team that Obo himself drafted. Outside of one change, I believe he had Marshtomp over Xatu in the last slot there, but that's a pretty minor change. No other changes made that I'm aware of besides that. Odds has played a couple of very close matches so far, both 1-0 defeats for him, unfortunately. So he is 0-2, -2. We are 1-1 with a even differential. So I anticipate this is going to be another very close game because he has a lot of very threatening offensive threats. Getting into our team now, it's maybe going to become a tradition that we always start our team with the Tapu Koko. This is going to be a much bulkier Tapu Koko set. We do have enough speed to outspeed the Raikou, which is the fastest mon on his team, but then a lot of bulk, which will allow us to take hits from mainly Mienshao. Mienshao and high jump kick hits very hard. We do have the Go Lurk to deter him from going from high jump kicks as well, but we have this Koko to also take hits. We are Farium Z, but don't have a ton of special attack investment. We pretty much just have enough to guarantee a KO with the Farium Z against the Kieran Black. So pretty much this Koko is here to take some hits, heal off the damage, pivot out, and get a one-time very powerful attack off with the Twinkle Tackle there. Next, we're going to have the Drapion again for the third week in a row. This is kind of an odd Drapion set. It's max HP, but then outside of that, I didn't really need too much defense investment to take the hits that I wanted to. We have a little bit of Spadef there to live a Life Orb Earth Power from Kieran Black. I also didn't really benefit from a ton of attack investment on this Drapion set, so the 68 there is pretty much just left over. And then I went Jolly with a lot of speed, which will allow me to outspeed a max speed Mega Blastoise by 2 points, and that's key because if I am this is basically trying to outspeed a like, say if his Kieran Black is hitting that marker, like if I'm trying to outspeed a max speed Blastoise with any given mon on my team, then this is going to be able to speed creep his Kyurem speed creep, and I'll potentially be able to get some even more chip damage off on the Kyurem with this Drapion if need be. We have Toxic Spikes on this Drapion as well, so a good portion of his team is grounded. He has a Decidueye which can have defog, but Drapion pretty much always beats Decidueye 1v1. And then he has Mega Blastoise to Rapid Spin, but getting that thing toxic will be a very nice way of chipping that thing down for the rest of my team. He also has the Sheer Force Lando Eye that can carry defog, but if he's bringing that, he will more than likely want to go out all out offensive against my team and not have to waste a turn to defog Toxic Spikes away. We also have the Whirlwind, which is mainly there for things like Clefable and Raikou in case they start to set up with subs and Calm Minds and that kind of thing. Clefable, yes, like it is weak to Poison Jab, but Poison Jab is only doing around 50%, maybe not even to a max defense Clefable. So yeah, Drapion's kind of weak. So being able to Whirlwind that thing out, even if it's Cosmic Power, like if it's boosting with Cosmic Power, then it will definitely be able to take hits from Drapion, so we'll be able to phase that thing out and deny it of its stat boosts. and we can just get poisons off with the Toxic Spikes against the rest of his team as well. Next up, we have our Heatran, which is our newest member, one of the newest members of our team after our transaction party last week. This is going to be a Choice Scarf Heatran with just enough speed to outspeed the Raikou again. He has a lot of very powerful ground type attack options against my team, so rather than run something like a Shuca Berry to ensure that I live one of those hits, I think I'd rather just try and outspeed them and get big damage off before they can hit me. Like, there's absolutely no sense in running a Shuca Berry for going up against a Sheer Force Lando Eye. Like, I'm sure even with the Shuca Berry that Earth Power completely blows through my Heatran, so I'd rather just be able to outspeed that and get lots of damage off against him with a modest Fire Blast. You can also come in against something like the Clefable and get Stealth Rocks up, hopefully force it out so that we can, you know, switch out on the next turn because we will be locked into Stealth Rocks. The last attacking move on our Heatran is going to be Nature Power, which partners well with Coco because if Electric Terrain is active, Nature Power will turn into Thunderbolt, and that will be super effective against the Mega Blastoise, which would otherwise resist both of my other stabs. So if the scenario presents itself where I have my Heatran in and I can force something out and maybe predict the Blastoise switch in while Electric Terrain is active, then I can get a big chunk of damage off against it. Next up, we're going to have another new addition to our team. This is our Golurk. Golurk is Assault Vest to take a variety of hits from his special attacking mons. This is going to be our immunity to Raikou's Volt Switch. We can get big damage off against a lot of his team with Earthquake and the other coverage that we have. We should be able to take hits from Lando and then hit it with an Ice Punch. Take hits from Clefable and then hit it with a Heavy Slam. And if we're at high enough health, we might even be able to take a Ice Beam from a Kyurem Black and then retaliate with an Iron Fist boosted Hammer Arm to do a lot of damage to that thing. Pretty simple spread, max attack, and a lot of HP, and then a little bit of speed investment to speed creep a non-invested Clefable. So next up, getting a little bit creative with our melodic this week, we have the second half of our Assault Vest core. Assault Vest competitive, offensive melodic, Scald, Ice Beam, Mirror Coat, and Dragon Breath. So Dragon Breath is going to basically just be there for the Kyurem Black. It's going to hit it super effectively. It's not going to do a ton of damage to it, but we have a 30% chance for paralysis. And if we get that paralysis, then we'll be able to outspeed it on subsequent turns and do even more damage to it. With the Assault Vest, we're going to be very, very bulky and be able to take hits from the Mega Blastoise and the even the Raikou, despite it hitting us super effectively, and we'll be able to retaliate with a Mirror Coat against something on his team. His only immunity to Mirror Coat, like say if he were to Volt Switch out with his Raikou against my Milotic, would be the Alolan Persian. But this Milotic beats Alolan Persian anyway, because if it wants to Parting Shot out against me, I have the competitives just like last week, so I'll get a +3 boost in special attack, and then I'll hit something very, very hard with the Scald and even have a chance to burn it. So I really, really like this melodic set. I could have gone a different route with maybe like a Flame Orb Marvel Scale set to take hits from Kyurem Black, but I'd rather just go on the all-out offensive as best as I can and try to bring some heat every week, you know? Last but not least, we have our Mega Latios, which is going to try to be a late game cleaner with a Dragon Dance set. We have just enough speed to guarantee outspeed his Sheer Force Landorus. We are not running enough speed for his Mienshao, however, because I figure if the Mienshao is going to come to this game, it's going to be scarfed anyway. So, no sense in wasting EVs on that when I could just put those extra EVs into bulk. Obviously, an unaware Clefable is kind of a hard stop to this Mega Latios set, but That's kind of why we have the Toxic Spikes on Drapion. Either I can get that thing Toxic Poisoned and have it whittled down every turn, or if it's Magic Guard and it doesn't take any damage from the Toxic, then I can get a Dragon Dance up and 2-hit KO it with the Zen Headbutt. And because Mega Latios is so bulky, I should be able to take even a super effective Moonblast from that Clefable, and then proceed to do a lot of damage to his entire team. So that's the team that we're going to be rolling with this week. Hopefully it can put in the work and get us back in the win column for a second week in a row, and we can start the PCL D-League with a positive record through 3 weeks, which we weren't able to do in the IBL D-League. Anyways, I will be right back with the battle. Here we are back with the battle, and looking at Odd's team, we see that he has brought neither of his 2 likely hazard removers in Decidueye or Blastoise. He does have the Landorus that has the potential to run Defog and get rid of my hazards, but as I mentioned in the team builder, I don't think the chances of that are very high. I think he would much rather go out on the all-out offensive with the Landorus. The Landorus and the Metagross are the only 2 mons on his team that will not be affected by the Toxic Spikes. The rest of his team, barring the Clefable if it is Magic Guard, will get poisoned by the Toxic Spikes and will be very nice to wear down. We also don't see the Mienshao on his team, which is a relief. We did bring basically all of our answers to it to deter it from denting our team with high jump kicks, but I'm still glad not to see it. Instead, he's got the Audino to round out his fat pink Mon core with his Clefable as well. Because he doesn't have the Mega Blastoise, that being the only fire resistance that he has on his entire roster, I'm very free to go ahead and lead with my Heatran, trying to put offensive pressure on him right away. I can get off a very powerful Fire Blast against basically anything that he wants to lead with, except for this Landorus. This is the one thing that I did not want to see lead against my Heatran. He is going to force me out. I don't want to go down right away to 1 hit here. He's actually going to set up his Stealth Rocks, so now I'm going to predict him to switch into either the Metagross or the Clefable to deal with my Latios, and I'm actually going to pull out a double switch, and this is a very, very good play for me. It's going to help further my game a lot here, because you see that the Landorus switched out first, which means that he is 100% a Choice Scarfed Landorus. So knowing that is going to be really helpful for me down the road. And we see that he's actually Choice Scarfed with Stealth Rocks, just like my Heatran is. So I get my Drapion in against the Clefable to set up the Toxic Spikes as the Audino comes in. And then I'm going to knock it off to scout out what it's trying to do. It's going to hit me with a Stomping Tantrum, which is nice that he revealed that, so I'm not safe staying in with my Heatran against this thing later on. And Stomping Tantrum really does nothing to me whatsoever. I do want to try to get my Golurk in against this later on to pressure his team much more offensively than Drapion can, but I wanted to scout out his set a little bit more. I didn't want my Golurk to be taking a knockoff, so he is going to set up the Wish, and I was predicting a Landorus to come in to receive the Wish, but instead it was the Metagross, so in hindsight it would have been nice if I had just stayed in and gone for another knockoff to get some damage off against the Metagross, because this Drapion is kind of designed to beat the Metagross 1v1, or at least get some chip damage on it for other members of my team. But I Whirlwind the Metagross out into the Audino, so the Audino's now Toxic Poisoned, because I set up 2 layers of Toxic Spikes against it. And this time I'm going to bring in my Golurk as Metagross comes in again, so I will gladly take a hefty chunk of damage off of this Metagross for a potential Latios sweep late in the game, because I do need Metagross is very bulky, and it does take Earthquakes quite well. He gets a lot of damage off against me with the Ice Punch, but here, knowing full well that he's going to go for an Earthquake, I know that my Drapion can take it. I still want to preserve my Golurk in the back to come in against the Audino later on. So the Drapion's going to come in and eat the Earthquake. I know that I can't be crit thanks to my Battle Armor ability. I'm going to be able to knock out the Metagross with a knockoff. You see that we knocked off a Rocky Helmet, so that more than likely indicates that he was designed to switch into my Staraptor and eat Stab, Double Edges, and Brave Birds, and then get more Rocky Helmet damage off. But the Landorus is now going to come in, and I know this is Scarfed, and he's going to Scarf himself into Earthquake rather than Earth Power, which is interesting. So I know that I can bring in my Latios for free and get off a Dragon Dance, as he is going to bring in the Clefable once again. The Clefable is going to get poisoned, and Latios is going to Mega Evolve and go for a Dragon Dance, and depending on whether he is Magic Guard or unaware, I may be able to just go for the win here, because if he is Magic Guard, then I should be able to 2-hit KO him with a couple of Zen Headbutts here. But as you see, he takes the toxic damage, so we find out that he is unaware, and I won't be doing that much damage to the Clefable after all, so I do want to preserve my Latios. Don't want to go for the sweep just yet, as he's going to go for the Toxic as I bring in my Heatran, so obviously I do not take anything from that Toxic. And now I'm going to get my Rocks up, so I have all of my hazards up against this team, 2 layers of Toxic Spikes and the Stealth Rocks, as the Audino is going to be his switch in, and even if I wasn't choice locked into the Stealth Rocks, I would definitely be switching out here, because I already know that he has the Stomping Tantrum. And now my Golurk is going to come in. Golurk should be able to eat a hit from the Audino, because, you know, Audino's not really very strong at all. You saw how little damage it did with the super effective hit to my Drapion that wasn't even defensively invested. It just had max HP. But here I'm going to miss my Hammer Arm, making me wish that I had run No Guard Dynamic Punch after all. Of course, Iron Fist would have boosted Hammer Arm's power and made it more powerful than the Dynamic Punch, but of course I get no damage off at all. I make the correct read that he's going to leave his Audino in against my Golurk, but I get nothing off against the Audino because I miss, and he knocks me out with an Ice Beam. It's really not the end of the world, though. I can bring in my Tapu Koko, and this thing is still Toxic Poison, so it's getting whittled down really quickly. Gonna get a Thunderbolt off against him, and then I'm gonna U-turn out, because I don't quite want to allow his Landorus in for free at this point. So I am going to U-turn out against the Audino. It doesn't knock him out, and he gets a Wish up, but he's going to go down to the Toxic Poison. As Latios comes in, takes a little bit of the Stealth Rock damage, but now the Clefable is going to come in, and I'm going to decide to switch my Milotic in instead of my Heatran. And I'm really glad that I did this, because he's going to reveal the Hidden Power Ground. So knowing that Milotic wasn't really doing a whole lot for me at this point in the game, I felt free, like, just switching it in here, and it was going to be able to, you know, put in as much work as it was able to before it went down. And then I would have my Fairy Dragon Steel Core in the back to hopefully deal with the rest of his team. So I'm glad that I left Heatran in the back on that time, so that it didn't take that Hidden Power Ground. I should have been able to survive it, but I don't think I would have been able to come back in on Rocks so many times afterwards if I did have to take it. But we're going to get a Scald off against the Clefable, as he is going to get the Toxic off against me. Of course, I am competitive and not Marvel Scale, so I'm not going to receive any sort of defense boost from the status. But that's okay, because the Kyurem Black is going to come in, and I actually get a really nice and fortunate crit with the Scald against the Kyurem, so that is going to
put it in range to die from a fire blast from my Heatran rather than a flash cannon, and that's gonna help me a little bit in the future. But because this Kyurem is Terravolt, he would ignore my Marvel Scale if that was my set, and he would easily be able to knock me out with a Fusion Bolt regardless. But as I said, Melodic not doing a whole lot for me at this point, so I feel perfectly fine just letting it stay in to die there, as now I'm going to be able to bring my Heatran in, and I can go for a Fire Blast and risk the miss here, because I didn't want the Raikou to come in and resist my Flash Cannons. I wanted to force the Landorus in here because I need to force him to lock into a move, right? All I've seen is Stealth Rock and Earthquake at this point, so I would like him to lock himself into Earthquake so I can bring my Latios in and get a Dragon Dance up for free. So I'm actually going to switch my Heatran out into my Tapu Koko to... I was basically sacking my Koko there, hoping that he would go for an Earthquake and knock me out. I didn't want to sack my Heatran just yet, to save it for the Clefable in the back, because I could hit it with super effective Flash Cannon and knock it out. But honestly, I don't think it mattered which of Tapu Koko or Heatran I preserved in that moment. But because my Koko does have Roost, I'm going to be able to rack up the toxic damage against him, and his Raikou's going to come in now and reveals that he has the Thunderbolt and he's Life Orb. So the Life Orb is actually going to help chip him down even quicker for me. And he's doing quite a hefty amount of damage to my Tapu Koko, despite my Koko being basically a max HP set with quite a bit of bulk. So I'm very glad that I had so much in bulk invested into this Tapu Koko here. But I go for the Roost the second time, and on that turn he's going to go for the Calm Mind to get a more powerful hit off against me on this turn, as I'm hoping that I can knock him out with my Twinkle Tackle here. Of course, I have very, very little special attack investment, so I'm not going to be doing a whole ton of damage here. And I actually don't even knock out the Raikou with him being at +1 special defense now. He's going to live with about 5% and get a very strong Thunderbolt off against me. But he's going to go down to his own Life Orb. Thankfully, I do survive so that I force his Landorus to come in once again. And this time, he's going to lock himself into Earthquake to knock out my Tapu Koko. I think that was a bit of a misplay, honestly, for him. I think his better play would have just been to knock me out with U-turn and then go into the Clefable, because I would have been forced into my Heatran rather than my Landorus, or excuse me, rather than my Latios. But either way, I don't think it mattered too much, because he would have had to rely on his Landorus to win in the game. It's his only really offensive mon left, so there's no one move that he can lock himself into that would be able to beat both my Mega Latios and my Heatran. I just say that he should have U-turned, because he might have been able to preserve a 1-0 defeat instead of a 2-0 defeat that he is actually going to suffer here. But the Clefable actually just dropped to 1 Zen Headbutt upon switch in, which was really nice, and I'm going to be able to eat a U-turn from the Landorus, go for the Dragon Dance to outspeed it and do more damage to it on the following turn, and then knock it out with a Dragon Claw to secure the 2-0 win for the Red Gyarados. GG to OddsAre. This was honestly one of the best games on my channel so far that I've had the pleasure of post-commentating, so make sure you go check out his side of the battle as well. Of course, his links will be in the description for you guys. You know, playing this game was so intense. It was such a different game from last week, where we were just making our moves really quickly because we were trying to avoid it going to timer, and it was such a kind of a stally kind of game. But these turns were much slower
with us trying to plot our endgame with every move. The turning point of this match, honestly, was the second turn of this game. And I'm really not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but if PCL had its own version of the GBA Plays of the Week show, that turn 2 play would definitely be on it. At the time, the main reason I made that play, well, there were 2 reasons. One being that I didn't want to reveal my Latios set because I wasn't going to be doing a whole bunch to whatever he wanted to bring in, and I didn't want to reveal that I was a physical, aka a Dragon Dance Latios set so early in the game. And the other reason being I just wanted to get my Toxic Spikes up as soon as I possibly could. But the reason that play was so significant in the grand scheme of things was I was able to confirm that he was a Scarfed Landorus on the second turn of the game, and that helped me know exactly what I needed to do to win so early in the game. As soon as I saw that he was a Scarfed Landorus, I knew that I was going to win this game by positioning myself so that I would force him to bring his Landorus in so many times to lock himself into Earthquake so that I could bring Latios in and set up a Dragon Dance and sweep his team. As it turned out, I didn't actually even need a boost from the Dragon Dance on Mega Latios to pull out the victory in the end, but it helped me make my plays throughout the course of the game with a much clearer mind. Then we have the hazards that came in clutch for us this week. Toxic Spikes did a really nice job of wearing his team down for us. The Stealth Rocks as well were really nice for the 25% on the Kieran Black especially. As I've gone on record to say multiple times, my team has an immense amount of hazard pressure at its disposal, and honestly, I don't think Odds was super prepared to deal with my hazard pressure, especially the Toxic Spikes set by Drapion, and Drapion is really racking up the passive kills now. 2 passive kills this week thanks to its Toxic Spikes, both the Audino, and now I'm actually realizing that I've made a mistake on my stat sheet because Drapion should not be credited with a kill on the Raikou, because the Raikou actually went down to its own life orb rather than the toxic poisoning. But oh well, I will just have to clarify that with the doc managers for the PCL. So Drapion actually has 2 direct kills and 2 passive kills rather than 3 passive kills on the season, but that still makes it our team's kill leader 5 weeks into the season with 4 kills in total. Our Fire Sale pick, our Mon that I was most unsure about drafting to this team, so far is actually putting in arguably the most work so far. Oh, and another correction, because Drapion's not actually our kill leader. Technically, it should be Staraptor, because Staraptor has 4 kills. So Drapion and Staraptor are tied, but I think Staraptor should have the edge because it has 4 direct kills. Drapion only has 2 direct kills. I legitimately am only realizing these mistakes right now as of recording this, so I apologize for that. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for future PCL D-League videos. And next week, we'll be back to take on Lieutenant Gold and his Victory Road Victinis. So we will see you then.